Welcome to Idaho Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz in Boise today at the state capitol, joined by the governor of the great state of Idaho. His name is Rich Otter. Thank you so much, Governor, for joining us. We appreciate it. I had the honor and pleasure of reading through word by word your state of the state.
Oh, God bless you.
God bless me, yes. And I want to speak with you. It was clear to me in reading those 5.5 pages that education is top of mind. You are all about education in 2017. Why?
Well, what it comes down to is workforce development.
Right.
Capital is going to go where they can find jobs and where they can find people that do the work. And, I'll give you a pretty good example. We have 3.8% unemployment in Idaho, which is roughly 30,800 people that are out of work. Got 22,500 jobs I can't fill because they're not qualified.
I'm so glad you brought that up because there's no question that there's almost a mismatch.
Right.
That we have people who want the work, they don't have the skills, but it seems as if you are thinking about that.
Right.
And we're looking at, for example, turning Eastern Idaho Technical College into a full community college. And if I may say, given President Trump's focus on manufacturing jobs, skilled jobs, who educates those folks? Community colleges.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know if you were prescient or it was just good timing, but good grief.
Well, we've been working on that a long time, Brad. In fact, we founded a new community college in Idaho in 2009 called the College of Western Idaho in Nampa. It's in Ada and Canyon County. That's the community college district. And, we started out with 1,200 students in 2009. Today we got 22,000 students.
And as I understand it, you're looking to expand the College of Western Idaho.
Right.
I mean, you're really looking at community colleges as the next wave of higher education.
Into a Boise campus.
Right.
Because community college is really more than just CTE. It is more than just skills, preparing people for skills. A lot of times a community college will give a potential four-year student an opportunity to see if they're classroom ready, to see if right out of high school or maybe changing another job, they may be 30 years old, but they have to be refitted for a new job, skills-wise. They have to be refitted.
So my question becomes, I know that you are, let's say, close with the Trump administration, and so are you speaking with them about trying to leverage Idaho's assets, these new community colleges, the existing community colleges, your higher institutions of learning, so that when we need to train all these new folks because we're bringing jobs back from Mexico and China, Idaho's the place?
We're ready. We're ready. And we will be ready.
Fair enough.
I should say.
Fair enough.
And the Trump administration actually invited every state, not just the Republican governors, but
well
every
sedated
state, to submit a transition package.
Oh, wow.
And so what we did was we went out to our agencies and we said, DEQ,
environmental quality.
How much more can you do than just listening to what the EPA wants to tell you? U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Idaho Fish and Game, what is it that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife keeps getting in your way? So we went to every agency and we said, what would you like to see in a new federalism effort where the states actually become partners with the federal government and with the federal agencies? And quite frankly, Idaho's had tremendous success. We were invited a few years back during the Obama administration under Secretary Ken Salazar at the Interior Department, the first time that I can ever remember, all the time I spent in Congress, the time I spent as lieutenant governor, that was the first time that a federal agency had ever reached out to us and said, what's your idea for saving the sage grouse under the Endangered Species Act? And so we put a plan together, and I put a plan together with the local folks, the BLM, the Interior people, U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Let me ask you about the sage grouse, because that has become an issue that's not just unique to Idaho. Our friends in Colorado are dealing with it. Really, this whole area is looking at it, and it's become a flashpoint.
Got 11 states, 44 million acres that are taken within that that sage grouse habitat area. We came up with some ideas, I say again, along with the local BLM and local U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Interior folks, and they loved the program. They said, boy, we're doing the right thing here. When we sent our plan to Washington, D.C., once it crossed over the Mississippi River, all of the local input, all of that collaboration went right down the drain.
But I would presume that given the focus of the new administration, there will be a renewed effort to revitalize federalism, states' rights. And let me ask you, you talked about it in your State of the State, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, whatever you want to call it. We know it's going to change. But interestingly, Idaho has had decent success under the Affordable Care Act. The exchange,
In spite of.
yeah, I mean,
of.
the state exchange has
Yeah.
been successful. There wasn't an expansion of Medicaid like other states, but you've been looking at trying to close that gap.
Right.
Where do you go with health care under the new administration?
We don't know.
No, well stated,
We don't
right?
know.
Well
And
stated.
when I was asked that question a few weeks ago after my State of the State speech
Right.
During a press conference that I put forward every year, I was asked, well, what are you going to ask the legislature to do about Medicaid expansion?
Right.
Because we'd had an interim committee that was working on it.
And I would presume that the interim committee probably thought the president would be Hillary Clinton because at the time
Yeah.
it looked like she was going to be successful. Now we have President Trump, and so the interim committee has to rethink.
But Brad, no matter whom the next president is, it does not diminish our responsibility in the state of Idaho
Right.
to provide the kind of, especially emergency long-term care that is going to be required by the citizens of Idaho. That's our responsibility. First off, it's the family's responsibility. It's the individual's responsibility, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to do in Idaho is getting people to accept personal responsibility for their own health. When your doctor tells you to quit smoking, or if he tells
Right.
you back off on the sugar, or back off, you need to lose some weight, or you're going to end up with adult onset diabetes, we want them to do that, and we're willing to help them do that.
Right.
But we didn't have a program under Obamacare which could give us, what we had under Obamacare was increasing regulation and increasing prices on everything.
So are there ways for Idaho to create local solutions
Sure.
within the framework of whatever may exist? I mean, you have over 100,000 on the exchange, about 78,000 in that gap. They can't get Medicaid, but they can't really get the exchange in terms of subsidies. So I guess it's to be continued.
It's one of those deals where they make too much but not enough.
Right.
In order to qualify for the subsidies. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the subsidies come to the states. This would be under the federalism.
Right.
Come to the states in block grants.
Which
And then
is
we can
so
use that to
right.
establish medical homes. So you go to one doctor, that doctor knows what illnesses your
Right.
father, your mother, your grandfather, your grandmother, they know your entire medical history as far back. So if they see some incidences or some issues coming up that says, you know, your grandfather had this or had that, we're going to start we're going to start watching for that. And then we are going to tell you that you need to do that. And then you're going to have to do it because that's the personal responsibility that you have to accept.
His name is Butch Otter. He is the governor of the great state of Idaho. My name is Brad Pomerantz. We thank you so much for joining us from the state capital in Boise. This is Idaho Local.